We've been hearing a lot recently about how equity, diversity, and inclusivity issues are affecting the technology sector. So I really wanted to sit down with some of the thought leaders and discuss the problems and some of the things that are being done to try to improve the situation. What's the problem of not having equity, gender equity, in their leadership or in the teams of the companies? What's the consequence?
You don't get better decision making, better problem solving, and great discussions. I really think that the more diversity you can have, and you can look at the Myers-Briggs diversity too, right? So there's thinkers and feelers, and there's extroverts and introverts. So you do look for that kind of diversity in your team as well. But the more diversity, the better you have in terms of piling ideas and tossing them around and figuring out which one is right. You don't want a group think approach where everybody's got the same idea and they just go, oh, thumbs up, let's move on. Beer time.
Diverse perspectives is what you're looking for.
Yeah.
I like to add a little bit on that.
Yep.
More like so far I talk more from the practitioner perspective, but actually work for a venture capital, and what we really care about is the business outcome, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really encouraged by the number of and the both quality and the quality of the studies that clearly tie high-performing companies to team diversity. So it's not a secret to us anymore as an investor that if we want to have a better return for our money, we need to invest more in diversity. And so basically, I want to say it's not only good for society, it's also good for the business.
Mm-hmm.
And that should be the kind of message we have to have out there. We have to frame it as a business agenda. We have to frame it as a business outcome, rather than only it's good for society. It's good to have more girls out there in the tech industry. But it's normally, I guess nobody has a question mark. There is no question. At least that's my hope. And I'm really encouraged that most of the people, they are kind of sold on that idea that we need to have diverse teams. But what is really missing is that, especially in tech industry, because it's tough because these companies have to move so fast and they are so pressured to move incredibly fast. Mm-hmm. And so normally the opportunity for promoting gender and diversity can be deprioritized. That's the main problem.
You're saying that. Are the investors saying that when they talk to their startups, that they need to bring in gender equity and diversity within their teams? Do you have the sense that they're passing that message on to the founders?
Exactly. So we are, as an investor, we are committed to building a diverse company ourselves, as well as promoting diversity in our portfolio companies. Okay. And as you said, it can be it can be diversity in the board, it can be diversity in the leadership, or it can be even diversity in their actual entry level or more junior position.
Parinaz, what you're doing, how consistent do you think that is across the venture capital industry? I think it's very uncommon, personally.
I'm maybe if you were asking me 2-3 years ago, I would say no, it's not. It's only it's not part of every investor agenda. But mm-hmm. actually, if you look at our LP, people that give us money, they ask us such questions right mm-hmm. now.
Okay.
So it's again, we have enough proof points. If you look at the return case of more diverse companies, or even those companies that are funded by women, we have enough data out there. It's so hard to not actually question it now. Maybe it was harder 2, 3, 5 years ago, but right now we have enough examples of very successful teams that have been funded and led by women, or diverse teams that really leaves no kind of question marks or no blank space to wonder why we should have diversity. And I even saw lots of investors, they have dedicated part of their funds for like only investing on, for example, companies leading by women or start examples like this, because we all understand the importance of such initiatives, not only for societies but also for the business outcome.
Well, I agree with you. I agree that with the stats and that women leadership is a great thing in the startup community, but venture capital firms are still dominated by men.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
And when we're talking, I can't remember whether it's 95% men, or it's a pretty high number still. So I love to see that that's happening, and you're seeing that, and the more we see that, the better, because it will push more startup companies to get that diversity right from the beginning as well too.
Raising capital or getting access to capital still is much more difficult for women funders to raise, and I do agree part of it is because the industry is pretty much white male dominated, but we are, first of all, we have, and of course it's not only about it's more like unconscious bias, because you can trust people of very similar backgrounds more easily, and that's kind of normal outcome of not having diverse investment companies, right? So now in our company we have, as I said, that's why we are committed to first of all build diverse teams internally and also trying to promote diversity.
Thusha, you've managed to do very well in having that diversity in the Magnet Forensic Ottawa site. How hard did you have to work to come up with close to it's more than 40% of your employees that are women?
It fluctuates, but definitely it's a small team. I think we're at 27 now.
Yeah.
It does fluctuate, but I'm trying to keep the percentage higher than, well, I'm just trying everything I can, basically. One of the things I do is, I've been visiting high schools and universities talking about what I care about. And I think having a female leader, as an example, goes a long way. So when companies now come and ask me, how do I get more women in? I tell them it's easy, just promote a few. So certainly that helps. And then I've spoken to my team a lot about the unconscious bias that exists. Like Parinaz says, it exists in AI, but it also obviously exists in humans in the hiring process. There's studies that talk about the resume bias. If you read a resume and it has a woman's name on it, you automatically, they're less likely to get called in for an interview. And if you have an ethnic sounding name on it, you're even, less likely to get called. So I openly talk to my team about it when we review resumes, and I know I have these biases too. So I'm not trying to necessarily, it's great if we can eliminate our biases, but they're ingrained. So what I'm trying to do is actually have a diverse group review the resumes, because I'm thinking like if you put diversity in, maybe you get diversity out. So we review resumes with that in mind, and then in our interview process as well, we try to have a diverse set of interviewers who go in. This way I'm thinking, as long as you pass the technical interview, that's obviously very important, because I think no one wants to get hired as a token or as a diversity stat, and I care very much about, I want to be hired for my qualifications, not because I'm a woman. But as long as you pass the technical interview, then, I have the diverse interviewers, and have your bias and hire. And if I have a varied number of interviewers, then I get that out of it as well. And it seems to be working. And like we spoke about, it does take a long time. If you're in a hurry to hire, then you might have to make some decisions quickly. So, if you get a large number of candidates and you have to hire a large group very quickly, like Parinaz says, you might make some calls and put diversity in the background. I've been grateful that Magnet's given, and we put a lot of thought into our hiring, and we always say we're not just filling bums in the seats. So I'm given the time I need to find the right candidate, and I'm always trying to find a candidate that brings a diverse perspective. That doesn't necessarily have to be a woman. Sometimes it's a junior candidate if my team's full of senior developers right now. or someone from a different school who comes with different types of training. But it does, especially if you're trying to get more women onto the team, because there's not many women graduating right now, it definitely takes you longer to fill that position, but it's worth it. I think I can see the results of the outcome of my team now, and they're very productive, and they question each other a lot, which is, it's healthy debate. Because there are diverse opinions, we disagree often, but then I think you do build the best products at the end. So,
Have you seen over the years, Julia, this lack of diversity being an actual impediment to moving projects forward?
I mean, I've always been a proponent of high-performing teams, and myself, and diversity helps there, but you have to get a high-performing team, you have to build trust. And trust is partially getting to know each other, and being able to break some barriers. And that once you have that trust, then those conflict situations, those good conflict situations that bring better ideas are easier, right? And you can understand another's point of view. You can
make a constructive conflict rather than a negative one, I guess.
Exactly. And then if you know your colleague is an introvert and hasn't said something in a while, maybe you'll say, hey, but we haven't heard from you. What do you think?
Yeah.
Right? And to promote the conversation instead of talking on top of each other. And so the more you can do that, the better. And we took the time at the senior management team to spend quite a bit of time trying to take our team from a forming team to a high-performing team. And you think it's simple. That was like a 6-month process. And there was a lot of thought and discussion, both one-on-one and as a group, and to get that understanding. But I think that women are actually an asset there. I've heard it said, and people mentioned to me that they're happy to have me in the room because I help sort of remove a little bit of the testosterone. That it's not sort of escalating all the time, the discussion, and that they have to be a bit on better behavior. And not because I was more senior, but because I was a woman in those cases, and was always being a facilitator, always trying to get the best discussion going and have that good conversation so that we could move the company forward in a much more positive manner and go for those positive results. And I really find it very valuable. So anything you can do, and diversity is one of those things, to get to that high-performing team, the better, and the more successful you will be as an organization going forward.
You've all mentioned some issues in warnings. I'm still grappling with what you said about the young girls participating this summer, the interacting with that was really disturbing. That we still have those perceptions. I mean, they're young, as you said. There are people that are telling them this. Clearly, it's still in our culture. You talked about the speed of having to move, to hire, to move quickly. We're trying to build up the Canada North and the Ottawa tech sector. You're in an investment firm, Parinaz, and trying to help the companies build. Are we in trouble? Are we going to hit a wall, or are you optimistic about our ability to build those high-performing teams over the coming years?
I believe that part of the issue was 2008. I'm going to blame 2008 on it. So 2008 was, there was a financial crisis, tech sector got hit again. And to a certain extent, I think that the young women at that stage were more practical and said, oh, well, IT is not good. I'm going away from IT, right? And I think there was a certain amount of that, and that so we have a chance of recovery now because that's passed long enough. And but that's one of the reasons why we've been stuck at this 27% women in STEM. I think that there are programs that I see changing for engineering, and I I can see the stats finally moving. Electrical engineering just doesn't seem fun. It doesn't seem interesting. I don't understand the social impact I'll make. And this is important to women. There was a study done that and analyzed the question, an essay question for entrance applications to engineering. UOW. They filtered it and they looked at all the women's answers and all the men's answers, and more often than not, something like social impact showed up in the women. Not the guys. They just want to do something be interesting, problem solving, that sort of thing. The social impact is something that we need to bring out more, because it's not obvious how electrical engineering has a social impact. Biomedical engineering, which is a program that has much better numbers in terms of almost 50-50 in terms of men to women in the programs, that feels like you're having a social impact. That's great. Explaining how electrical engineering has a social impact to the next generation, I think is one of the things that will make a difference. I also, based on my most recent experience, I am convinced now that, yes, we have to put more women in front of young women and show them that, we made it there. But we also need to have men there that are supporting the women, and so that these young girls understand that there is a male population out there that wants them to come work for them. There's not that barrier.
I fully agree. I think because there is that stigma, when you think about engineering, when I thought about engineering, I knew it's going to be male dominated. I'm going to be studying with mostly guys and working with mostly guys. Because until we get rid of that, I think it's important for men and women to go to talk to these students, to say that, look at how much fun we're having working together. That's important. And there are these male allies and everyone who's here to support this. I think that's huge. And then I do agree that societal impact goes a long way for women. I think environmental engineering has similar numbers. So for universities, I think what you can do for sure is change your marketing. Change how you market engineering to students if you want to get more women in. I did have questions for Julia, because I know you've been in the industry for a long time. I'm curious if you... No, not too long.
Not too long.
Great amount of time to get great experience, and it's been great for me. I've seen you at a few events. I know the Women Powering Technology group that you're part of. It's been inspiring for me to see Julia, as a leader in the tech industry, because, as I said, examples are really important. I'm curious to hear your opinion on what you've seen so far, in the growth. And do you think the groups like the Women Powering Technology groups and these gatherings that we have, can you talk a little bit about the influence it has on the young women who join? I think there's, if anything, I think there's almost too many women's groups now, right? And we need to bring some of them together and make them more powerful. But there's some great ones, and I like Women Powering Technology because it doesn't say you have to be an engineer. It's you're working with technology companies, and many of them are technical, but it's a great generational learning experience. And so there's young people that are really driving it and keeping it going. And I'm really happy to help and bring people in and get some great topics and great discussion going. But it's a fabulous association for building your network. And that's one of the things that women do badly, usually. That's changing, I think, too, is building your networks. And those networks should not just be women either. But finding ways to continue to build your networks helps you grow and gives you opportunities to move in the organization and beyond the organization. So there's other ones. Women in Communications and Technology has a great mentoring program I'm involved in right now. And it's fabulous because you get hooked up with, I've got one woman engineer in Halifax, another
women working in program management here. And I love it. I just great conversations. It's fun to help each other, and the more we can support each other, the better. I think that maybe there hasn't been enough of that, and because we've been in a male-dominated technology companies and education system, we kind of forgot to help each other, I think, and the more I see a lot more of it happening about really helping each other, giving high fives and helping them move up.
I have last question for both of you, for Parinaz and Julia, then, since you touched on the topic. The importance of a mentor, and Parinaz, maybe you can speak to whether you have a mentor or an ally who's advocated for you and helped you as you started your career. And Julia, I'm happy for you to speak to the importance of a mentor as well, and how do women and others go about finding one?
Parinaz, you go first.
Yeah, like my best mentors were like not best, but like the ones that they have the most impact on my career and encourage me always and always push me to my boundaries. They were all made, and so I believe like I have lots of amazing women around me. They are like the really good role models for me. But back to the point that Julia mentioned, it's really important to also have other men in your network and as your mentors, because they can also, you can learn a lot from them, and they can be, and also having such relationship and conversations with another man also makes you more confident, for example, to have similar conversations to your boss or to the senior management, to people in the senior management roles that they are most of the time, these positions are most of the time filled with men. So it makes you more comfortable, it makes you more confident, and actually having those kinds of, and such kind of supporters or sponsors also are really important in your career.
So from my point of view, I had a great mentor, but I'm going to talk a little quickly about, there's an HBR article that just came out. It's called A Lack of Sponsorship is Keeping Women from Advancing into Leadership Positions. So, and it was a really interesting read because we mix up the terms mentor and sponsor a lot. And, a mentor is somebody that does a lot of one-on-one conversations with you and provides guidance. It's pretty private. Sponsor is the other end of the spectrum. That one is somebody that is willing to be loud and say, this is the person we should promote. This is the one that should take this huge project. When I'm a sponsor, I'm putting my career on the line for this individual. So, it was a very interesting article, just out, but it also pointed out that there are steps in between that are possible beyond mentorship, and the next one is connecting. I love connecting. I'm having a great time at Invest Ottawa, just connecting entrepreneurs to entrepreneurs, entrepreneurs to investors, and it's amazing that mesh of connections and how valuable they can be, and how much one entrepreneur can help another entrepreneur, and it really is a good step towards that sponsorship level. You don't have to always put your whole career on the line. And my mentor was really a sponsor, if I think about it now, because he was an individual that helped me become president of Chipworks. He saw the potential in me. He slapped me around a lot when I said stupid things, like, oh, not right now. I said, I've got 2 kids at home. He said, no, now. You've got to do it now. This is not going to be here later. And I really valued that. I did need that slapping around at that point. It was one of the best opportunities I grabbed, and I'm really glad I grabbed it. And I honestly usually end talking about leadership and with women. I say yes, say yes, say yes. I mean, grab those opportunities when they arrive. You'll work it through, you'll make it work somehow, and they'll really help you grow.
I think we do tend to say we're not ready far too often.
Agreed.
I would like to take an opportunity now to thank Julia and Parinaz for joining us today. It's been great learning a little bit more about you. And you're both such great examples for everybody in the tech industry, and certainly all the women in the tech industry who might be listening, as great examples to learn from and to get inspired by. So thank you very much. And thank you to the Dean for this opportunity.
Thank you to all of you. Our outreach programs involve 43,000 youths in the Ottawa area over the last
Congratulations.
12 months. It's huge.
Yeah.
But I'm still
amazing.
shocked that we still have such barriers to break through and try to make it. Next summer, I think we're going to have another step, which will be exciting when we start. We're now a recognized private high school, Faculty of Engineering. So next summer, they'll be giving the 11th grade physics course.
That's
And
fantastic.
they will be focusing on
I'll be
young
there.
women.
I'll be
That's
there.
amazing.
I'll
Me
be
too.
Because that, and it's going to be interesting because I'm a physicist and engineer by training, so I'm always looking for real data. And it is known by everybody that the 11th grade high school physics course is the showstopper. So I'm really, really interested to see whether this is real and if we can have an effect when we address that. Well, that was extremely interesting as a discussion with Parinaz and with Julia. And I really want to thank you, Thusha, for joining me today. I think we can continue this conversation in the next episode. I think there's still a lot to explore about all the issues around equity, diversity, and technology and inclusivity. So thanks so much for joining me today, Thusha, and we'll talk again soon.
I agree. It's been a great conversation, and I think we're just starting to get to the heart of it. So I'm looking forward to having more conversations with leaders from Ottawa.
I want to thank you all for tuning in on this episode of the Make the Future podcast. I hope you enjoyed the conversation and that you learned as much as I did. Don't forget to follow or subscribe to the podcast to make sure you don't miss the next episode. I would also like to really thank our guests and the podcast production team. Carl Borns, Valérie Sanson, Karen Massé, and Francis Bertrand Lafrenière. And I really hope you can join us next time.